Hello everyone and welcome to the Worth Account presentation presented by Worth Unlimited. Worth Unlimited has always been concerned in giving our consumers the broad or the big picture of their current financial situation and their future financial situation. We have found a great way of educating people about how their money moves, how their finance operates, is to assist them in getting out of debt. Let me tell you a little bit about us. We started in the mortgage industry in 1997. We were one of Utah's fastest growing companies in a 3-year period. We realized the significance of problem with debt, launched our first version of our program in 2004. A lot of people were just continuing to refi. That's pretty much what set us up for what was going on in 2008. In 2005, 2006, we ran a beta test on our product and were able to deliver that to 400 test homeowners. And the average client was about 20% ahead of schedule in their first year. We currently have over 70,000 users on the program that are heading towards becoming completely debt-free. We have been recognized and awarded by Ernst & Young for Utah Region 2008. Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award for Financial Services. If you don't know who Ernst & Young are, please take the time, research them. You'll find out that's a very prestigious award. Other companies that have received the same award are Apple, eBay, Microsoft, Starbucks, the list goes on. This is an absolute wonderful recognition that we received from Ernst & Young. Tonight what we're going to talk about is banking principles. We're going to talk about closed-end loans, amortization, interest cancellation, open-end credit lines, float leverage, offset accounts, and how all of this is set up to truly benefit the bank. And we're going to talk to you about each one of these different banking principles and strategies that are utilized, and then we're going to talk to you about a solution that is available to you. So let's talk about closed-end loans. It requires a minimum of full scheduled payment, allows payment in but no withdrawals. It's driven by an amortization schedule. Any money applied does not affect the interest charges until the following month, and it calculates interest charges from the month-end principal balance. Now, if we think about that, the most common closed-end loan that most people know about would be your mortgage. Another closed-end loan would potentially be your car loan. Anything that has a term, has an interest rate, has a balance, and has a minimum payment that does not change as you make payments, that would be a closed-end loan. What we understand about a closed-end loan is it's not very flexible. It is set up and it is built to benefit the lender. Let's look at interest accumulation to give you a bird's eye view of this. If I have a $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest, 360-month loan, my payment is $1,199.10. Now, I rounded the number to $1,199. I'm bringing up the 10 cents so you can make a note. So if you run this amortization, you'll see that it is $1,199.10, and I did not leave the 10 cents off. I'm bringing it to your attention. If we make every payment on time, we pay back $431,677. That means we borrowed $200,000 in principal. We're on the hook to pay back $231,677 in interest alone. The reality is we have signed a note and an obligation for time and money that's almost $500,000. And 40 years ago, 50 years ago, nobody would have ever thought of putting that kind of money, unless you were fabulously wealthy, into a home. If you are currently purchasing a mortgage, and you notice I said it that way, you don't own the home until you pay the mortgage off. If you are currently purchasing a mortgage, that number on the screen right there should upset you. Let's talk about this interest, principal and interest. They are connected in an amortization schedule. A certain amount of money goes to principal, a certain amount goes to interest in a closed-end loan, and each time we make a payment, a little bit more money goes to principal, a little bit less goes to interest. In this case, in month 2, we can see that our principal contribution goes up by $1. We went from $199.10 in principal to $1,000 in interest to $210 in principal and $999 in interest. If you look at that, that means that in those first 2 months, we are paying 83% interest on those payments. If we look at year 1, we've paid in $14,000, but we only have a $2,400 equity position. Year 5, we paid in $71,000, only have a $13,000 equity position. And something interesting happens around year 5, year 7 with most mortgages here in the U.S., and that's that a lot of people refinance. Well, I'm not saying there's never a reason to refinance, but if you did refinance at this point, you've already paid $58,000 of interest. If you refinance to a 30-year loan, you're just setting the clock all the way back to 30 years. You're putting that interest right back in the nose and whatever closing costs you have. Year 10, we've paid in $143,000, but we've only paid off $32,000. In year 21, we finally hit the halfway point. We've paid in $302,000, and our balance is $99,878. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're paying a mortgage like that, that number on the screen right now, $431,677, should make you so angry, so irritated that you're willing to do something about it. Now, the next section I want to go to is that we all understand that if we apply additional money to principal, that we will pay a loan off early, we will save money and interest, but I don't know that anybody has ever explained to you why that occurs. So let's just take this loan we're dealing with in this amortization. Let's say in September we make our first payment in the amount of $1,199.10. That leaves us a balance of $199,800. Now, I want you to notice here October, November, December, and January, and I want you to look at the principal columns down to February. Let's say I write my check for $1,199.10 and send it to the mortgage company, and then I write another check that represents October's principal, November's principal, December's principal, January's principal, and February's principal. In other words, a total of $1,010.54. And I direct that check to be applied to principal. Now, many of you that are making payments online right now, you've seen the box, do you want extra money to go to principal? You click the box and put in the dollar amount. In this case, you'd be sending your regular payment of $1,199.10 as your regular amortized payment, and you'd be sending an additional payment of $1,010.54 directed to principal. By doing that, remember, principal and interest are connected. By prepaying October's principal, you cancel October's interest. Prepaying November, cancel November's interest. Prepaying December's principal, cancel December's interest. Prepaying January's principal, canceling January's interest. Prepaying February's principal, canceling February's interest. In other words, writing a check for $1,010.54 and applying that to principal cancels $4,984 of future interest that can be charged to you by the lender. Now, here's the beauty of it. I made my payment in September. I prepaid October through February in principal. I'm still going to have a payment due in October. I think everybody's aware of that. But here's what's so cool. When I make that payment in October, I'm not making the payment represented by the amortization schedule of October. In October, I'm making the payment represented by March's. See, remember I prepaid February. By March's amortization schedule. So when I make my second payment, instead of $200.10 going to principal and $999 going to interest, I will have roughly the next movement from here. I'll have $205.14 going to principal, and I'll have like $993 going to interest. I hope that makes sense to everybody. What we've done is prepaid principal to cancel interest. We've invested $1,000 in ourselves to save $5,000 in future interest. Money applied to principal. If we just up the game a little bit, if I took $1,199.10 and then applied $5,000 to principal, making my first payment in the amount of $6,199.10, this is still based on that $200,000 loan. I just want to show you the broad impact. We did not recontract the loan. We still have the exact same contract, but moving into month 2, we start off with a balance of $195,000. That means we're still at 6%. We're still at 360 months. We should be by contract. Our payment's still $1,199.10. But by prepaying that $5,000, instead of taking 359 months to expire this loan, we will pay the loan off in 337 months, which means we will eliminate 23 mortgage payments from the table. We were supposed to pay back $231,677. Now we'll pay back $208,373. That's a net savings of $23,304. And I guess the question I would ask you is, do you know of any account where you can drop $5,000 in that account, just let it sit, and it would give you back $23,000 in interest return? Even if you let it sit 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't think anybody knows of that account that is absolutely risk-free. With this account, by applying that $5,000, you will eliminate $23,304 of interest, not because we say so, but because that is how the bank has structured this type of loan. Remember, we're talking about a closed-end loan. It's not very flexible. Any money applied doesn't affect the balance till the end of the month. We do not have any mobility or flexibility with that kind of loan. Let's talk about another type of loan that we can get from a lender, and that's called an open-end credit line. Open-end credit lines allow us the ability to make multiple payments in and out and withdrawals, uses an interest factor to calculate interest charges. There's no amortization schedule. Money applied today affects the balance today. Views the daily balance to assess interest charges. You see how those two are quite different. It looks at the daily balance for interest charges, and any money applied affects it, and we can put money in and take money out. That sounds a lot more flexible. Let's talk about float and leverage. Now, a credit card is a type of credit line. And if we go out and do a shopping spree, we spend $500, we get our bill in the mail, what is it that we typically try to do? Well, the answer is that we try to pay the bill in full, because if we pay the bill in full, then we float the interest from the lender for 30 days. We leverage the lender's money interest-free for 25 to 30 days. What we have basically done is found a way to borrow the lender's money interest-free. I really want you to think about that for a moment. Is it possible, every one of you knows that you can do this, is it possible that you're thinking too small? What if the amount of money that you could borrow interest-free from your lender every single month equaled your net income? Banks understand and use the concept of no stagnant money. Smart investors do what banks do. They move the right amount of money at the right time from one account to another account and let it sit for the right length of time. I mean, to be a savvy investor, it takes a lot more than just that. But I want you to get the concept that really is, once you understand the market and the trends and what's going on and what you're investing in, it really does come down to moving the right amount of money at the right time from one account to another account. Now, the question I would have is, banks have an entire army of statisticians and accountants and mathematicians that are telling them where to move their money, where to best utilize it. Who do you have? You have maybe your financial planner, some of the information you've got in the bank, and maybe some information you've gotten from college. Banks practice sweep account technology. They use your money interest-free at the close of business. They sweep all the money out of checking and savings. They use that to offset balances and invest, earning money while you sleep. They know money works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I guess my question for you here is, are you absolutely confident that your money is working the best for you that it possibly can? Why not invest in yourself? The offset accounts that you can utilize are home equity lines of credit, personal lines of credit, commercial lines of credit, secured lines of credit, unsecured lines of credit, credit cards, PayPal, savings accounts, and yes, even some insurance products will operate as an offset account. The idea of an offset account is an asset account that you use to offset a balance. So you pay on that balance for a less amount of time and you pay less interest. Good example would be if you have a $5,000 balance on a credit card, you send it $2,500 in the first week of the month, not really a payment, just send $2,500. What you've done is offset the balance in half. You've taken a $5,000 balance and you've paid half of it off, so you've offset half that balance. If you're at 10% interest, you're effectively paying 5% interest now. They can only charge you interest on half the balance. So let's look at this offset concept. Let's say I have my $200,000 mortgage, and let's say I have a line of credit that I have $10,000 available. Now, I showed you the example of applying $5,000 to the mortgage and saving $23,304, but there's a dilemma. Where do we come up with the $5,000? Well, what if we did something that sounds totally crazy? What if we borrowed from our 10% home equity line of credit, which is an open-end line of credit, borrowed the $5,000 from there to pay to our 6% closed-end mortgage? I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous. It sounds like I made a mistake. It should be that we're using 6% money to pay off 10% money, right? No, I said that exactly correct. What if I showed you that using your 10% money on your open-end line of credit could affect the pay down on your mortgage at 6%, using 10% money to pay down 6%? I know it sounds crazy, but I'm going to show it to you mathematically why it works. It's not because of the interest rate, and what you're going to find out as we move into this, interest rate no longer matters. Think about that credit card. If you have 9% or 22% interest on your credit card and you pay the balance off before the end of the month, how much money do you pay in interest? And the answer is 0. So the interest rate no longer matters. So watch this. Let's say I take the $5,000 from my line of credit and I make that as a payment to my mortgage. I'm using 10% money to pay off 6%. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is I owe $195 on the mortgage and $5,000 on the home equity line. Did I increase my debt? And the answer is no. I still owe the exact same $200,000. What I did, though, I do not want you to view that I made a $5,000 payment to the mortgage. The way I want you to view it, because I need you to view money differently, I need to turn upside down the way you think about finance. I want you to view that you move $5,000 of balance from a closed-end loan, a loan that you cannot control, to a loan that you can control, an open-end line of credit. So all I did was move $5,000 of balance from a loan I can't control to a loan that I can control. By doing that, I'm saving $23,000 on my mortgage. I'm taking 23 mortgage payments off the table. For that month of using this $5,000, I want to give you what's called the interest-only calculation. It's how you calculate from a balance how much money you would pay in interest. And that calculation is balance times the interest rate divided by 12. I'll say that again, balance times the interest rate divided by 12. If I borrowed $5,000 from my home equity line of credit at 10%, for the use of that money in month one, I would pay $50 in interest. The real number is $46.21. I'm just using rounding up. I always want to give you the worst case scenario. Let's say I paid $50 for the use of that money, okay? Now I'm going to have to pay this line of credit back, correct? So let's say it takes me 6 months to pay this $5,000 back. At $50 a month over 6 months, how much money did I pay in interest on my line of credit? And over 6 months at $50, that means I paid $300 of interest on my line of credit to save $23,304 on my mortgage. How many of you like that idea? How many of you would be in the game and say, yeah, that makes sense mathematically? Okay, let's say it takes me a whole year to pay this $5,000 back. At $300 every 6 months, in a year, that would be $600 a year in interest. So if I pay $600 in interest here to save $23,000, how many of you are still in the game with me? Does it still make mathematical sense? Of course it does. Well, let's just be ridiculous. Let's say it took us a full 5 years to pay this $5,000 back. And we know we can do that because we pay car loans that are $20,000, $30,000 in 5 and 6 year periods. So let's say it takes me a full 5 years to pay this $5,000 back. At $600 a year over 5 years, that would mean for using 10% money on my line of credit, I spent $3,000 of interest on my line of credit to save $23,304. Does that make sense mathematically to you? Did I just show you how to use 10% money to pay off 6% money? Did I in fact just show you that interest rate no longer matters when you're utilizing a system like this? Did I just also show you that it is not a matter of the interest rate, it's a matter of one type of loan operating against another type of loan, a closed-end loan that's very restricted and benefits the lender, and an open-end loan that's very open, very flexible, can be used very easily by us and truly benefits us if we know how to use this. Well, what if we sweeten the pot? What if, let's say I make $5,000 a month and I spend $4,000 a month. What if, after I transfer that $5,000 from my line of credit to my mortgage, what if I took my paycheck and made a payment to my line of credit? Well, what is my interest rate now on my line of credit, or how much interest can they charge me? Zero, because my balance is zero. Now, we talked about a major credit card, and I talked to you about what if you could get the entire amount of your net income every single month interest-free. We know we can get the lender's money interest-free just by paying the balance off by the credit card, but I mentioned maybe you're thinking too small. Well, what if we introduce that credit card? We say, okay, we have $5,000 of income, $4,000 of living expenses. I take my paycheck, I make a payment to my home equity line, my balance is zero. Throughout the month, I live off of my credit card. So I pay my groceries, my telephone bill, my electric, power, water, sewage, everything. Every bill that I can pay with my credit card, I pay. So that means my paycheck can sit on the line of credit for almost the full 30 days. That means they can't charge me any interest there. At the end of the month, I'm going to get my credit card bill. I'm going to make one payment from my home equity line of credit, pay my credit card to zero. That means I pay no interest on the credit card. Interest rate no longer matters. I get my Sky Miles, my rewards, my cash back on my credit card. My balance pops up for 1 or 2 days on my home equity line of credit, and then I just duplicate the process and hit it with another paycheck. Pretty intense little system. And really all you're doing is you're using one type of loan against another type of loan. Well, let's look at one other thing. This has always been a dilemma. If you talk to the 5 major consumers, let's say these were your debts, they tell you go for that. One of them says go for the highest interest rate. One of them says go for the lowest balance so you get immediate gratification. Another one says it's not even a good idea to pay off your home. Well, with that type of mentality going on out there, let's say these are your 6 debts, how would you possibly decide which debt would be the best debt for you to apply money to if you were trying to get out of debt the quickest way possible? What we do know is it would be a best guess at possible. You'd have to decide how much money to move, when to move it, from what account to find the quickest solution to zero out your debt. All that would be manual. You would have to look at the characteristics of each debt, like amount owed, length of debt, interest rate, calculation of payment, adjusting rates, and you would have to select the precise debt to eliminate and when. All of this would be manual. It would be done by you. It would be intensive, and it would be at best a best guess. So let's bring together everything that I've talked to you about this system. If I make $5,000 a month and spend $4,000 a month, if I have a $200,000 mortgage in the beginning, I apply $5,000 to principal, I save $23,304. We identified income, checking, offset account, credit card, and mortgage and other debts. The system that I talked to you about, the banking strategy, was we're going to take $5,000 from our offset account and we're going to pay it to our mortgage. That's going to put us on track to saving $23,304. We're going to get our paycheck, put it into checking, and immediately we're going to transfer our entire paycheck, make a payment to our offset account for the full balance of $5,000. That means my balance on my offset account is now 0. They cannot charge me any interest on that offset account as long as the balance is 0. I'm going to live off of my credit card throughout the month to a tune of $4,000 in monthly expenses. At the end of the month, I'm going to get my credit card statement. I'm going to write one check or make one transfer from my line of credit, pay it to my credit card, pay that to 0. I float the interest. I leverage the lender's money. I don't pay any interest on that. I get my Sky Miles and rewards points. My balance pops off of my offset account for 1, 2, 3 days, and then I hit it with another paycheck. That's what we discussed. Now, I really want to ask you this question. How does that screen make you feel? Does that look like something that you would want to try to manage on your own? And when I'm in live audiences in front of people or even sitting knee to knee, this is what I typically get on what's missing. It's too complex to navigate without assistance. Yeah, you showed it to me on paper. Yeah, you explained it mathematically, but man, I wouldn't want to have to try to navigate that. There wouldn't be any strategic debt focus. I'd be guessing at what debt I'm trying to pay off, how much money to send and when to send it. All calculations, all actions, everything that's done would be manual and have to be done by me. At the very least, it would be very time-consuming. And as we all know, if we've been dealing with our finance, no one has all the systems in one place until now. We have the answer because technology has finally caught up with personal finance with the first and only financial GPS, the Worth Account solution. Now, why do we call it a financial GPS? Well, let's think about this. You know that system I just showed you, that first half? And I showed you that very complicated screen, and every time I show that to people, after hearing the system, they come back with those disagreements saying, man, it would be too complex to navigate. It would take me too long. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I wouldn't want to manage it. I don't have the time. What I am here to tell you is that Worth Unlimited took the time to duplicate that system in a web-based online program. We did the coding that was necessary, the banking strategies. We developed an entire system that duplicates that complex system that you just went over with me, those banking principles. The Worth Account duplicates those banking principles in management and strategy for you. So your financial GPS looks at every aspect of your financial situation, the amount owed, the term of each debt, the interest rate, the payment amount, income, and expenses. When unexpected events occur in your financial journey, now if you're driving down the road with your GPS and you get off track, we hear a little voice come on, and what does that voice say? Well, when unexpected expenses occur, like medical bills, car repairs, life happens, it would say recalculating your route. The Worth Account does the exact same thing. It works just like a navigational GPS for your finances. Point A is all of the debt that you currently have, and your arrival at point B, the quickest and most efficient way possible, is the design of the program. If you get off track, it will recalculate your route altogether. No guesswork involved. The program tells you how much money to move, the exact dollar amount, when to move it, the exact date, from what account to what account, the most efficient accounts, to help you find the quickest mathematical solution to zero debt. This here is our action plan. The body of the action plan is your to-do list. You can see December here and January down below. Below that would be February. It always shows you 3 months of your to-do list, what is coming, keeping your finance up to date in front of you. By going into the budget screen, this is where we add income, expenses. You can do this very generic with broad categories like food and dining, or you can break your categories down like bills and utilities into like phone, power, gas, utility. The more broad you want to be with the program in general, the more broad and general the response information is that you're going to receive from the program. The more detailed you are, the more detailed the information is going to be. What we do know about mathematics is that mathematics is highly detailed. The more detailed we are with this, the more we break it down into individual expenses, the best response we're going to get from the program. Once we've done the budget screen, we go into accounts, and this is where we can add new accounts. This is where our checking and savings are, and anything, what we call an account, is anything that has a balance, an interest rate, and a monthly payment. They would all be listed here. And yes, with our company, you can add new accounts online. Our program does not pay bills. Our program does not move money. That bridge to be able to connect online is to download transaction information from your lenders. So let's say you have a Chase debit card, you go into Smith's, you use your Chase debit card. If you are connected to Chase through the Worth account, 24 hours after you make that purchase at Smith's, a line item will appear in your action plan that says downloaded transaction, and it'll give the date, Smith's, and the dollar amount, and all you have to do is go in and verify that. And once you verify it, it integrates that information directly into the matrix of helping you get out of debt. Being able to search them online has been a great feature for the program, but I want to be very specific. The bridge does not work the other way. You cannot move money, and you cannot pay bills with the Worth account. I want to say that again. You cannot move money, you cannot access your accounts, and you cannot pay bills with the Worth account. Connecting to your lenders allows the ability for the lender to download transaction information to your program. Once you've set up the budget and accounts, this top section populates. This is called your dashboard. I like to call it the motivator. We have a client that has over $230,000 worth of liability. They make $5,000 a month, spend over $4,000 a month. And it's telling them that they will pay all their debt off in 9.3 years. They'll only pay back $68,459 in interest, and they have the potential to save over $171,000 in total interest. And I just want you to think, if that was your particular situation, would that excite you enough to at least investigate? Would that excite you enough to at least make the phone call to find out if Worth could be a good fit for you in finding out how to get out of your debt? You know, another thing that we found out with people getting out of debt is many people have to go to multiple websites to find out their balances, one for their car, one for their checking, one for their house. If you're connected directly online through the Worth account, you have an accounts overview and a budget overview directly on this default page, your main page. You can click into mortgages, creditors at any time. It'll show you how much is going to principal, how much is going to interest with your payment, when your next payment is due, what your current balance is, what your current interest rate is. Down here below, you notice we have a budget overview as well. You can see an expense folder here. Down below that, anything you set up as budgeted items, you'll be able to click in there as well and see how much money you've spent for the month. How you're progressing. There's a bar graph that shows you how much money you have remaining, how much you spent, and exactly the dollar amounts and what you have spent your money on. What I find is most impressive about the program is everything that you need to stay up to date with your finances, to have success with getting out of debt, is all on one page. It's right here. It's right in front of you. Just by logging into this once a week, you become very familiar with how your money's moving, how much money you have available, when your next bill is due, how much money you're going to have to source, what are your balances on your budget, what are your balances on your current accounts. All of this becomes second nature information. In fact, we found the program becomes a lot like a financial video game. We have a report section, very robust. You can tag and categorize transactions. Later you can go into search and search those categories and transactions, and it'll give you a printout of all those transactions under that category. So if you flag something for medical or pharmacy, you can run weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual reports. Very good for tax time, very good for just keeping up visually. Now, we talked about this being like a navigation system for your finances, and we know the nature of a GPS navigation system is to get you from point A to point B the quickest way possible and give you step-by-step driving directions to get you there the most efficient way possible. If you get off track, it recalculates automatically. Well, the Worth account is no different. It gives you step-by-step driving directions to help you arrive at your destination, in this case in 9.3 years, and helps you to travel only 68,000 miles of interest miles instead of $230,000 worth of interest if you put these two numbers together. The step-by-step driving directions are listed here. It's telling us on 12/1/2014, take money out of savings, pay that money to the home equity line of credit in the amount of $1,023.64. This is called a funds transfer. This is automatically generated by the program in response to your use of the program. The more accurate you are with the information you give the program, the closer you stay inside your budgeted finances, the more frequent you will receive these funds transfers. Two things I want to tell you about the funds transfers. The program will never generate a funds transfer if you do not have the money on hand. Number two, the program will not generate a funds transfer if you have that money earmarked for something else inside the program. You have the ability to set up settings with the program to take a very aggressive stance towards getting out of debt or take a more leisurely approach to getting out of debt. If you want the program to help you save up a savings nest egg while you're getting out of debt, you can set the program to do that. If you're an individual that pays your taxes every 6 months, they're not escrowed, you can set money aside in the program so the money is available 6 months later. Is it really that hard to believe that technology has gotten to a place where if you tell it how much money is coming in the door and when it's going out, how much money you're paying in bills in the intervals, is it really that hard to believe that somebody has finally developed a system that can look at all of the variables of your financial situation and say, look, if you're trying to get out of debt, here's where you need to start. Just follow these step-by-step directions and you'll get out of debt in 9.3 years and save $171,000 of future interest. I'm telling you, people, there's nothing more to it. All of the hard labor, all of the hard lifting is done by the programming inside the program, by the system. We have live client support, live chat. We have the ability to speak to people, and we have tutorials inside the program. Everything that you need to be successful with debt elimination is all on one page, all in one system. No need to go to multiple websites. No need to rack your brain with Excel spreadsheets. Everything all in one place. We were able, with a client using the offset account principle and the Worth account in 1 year, to achieve a balance of $184,811. If that same client would have just made their regular scheduled payments over the course of a year, they would have a balance of $197,543. It would have taken them 5.5 years of just paying regular mortgage payments to reach a balance of $184,752. You have a choice of using the offset account and the Worth program, pay everything off in 9.3 years, and pay a total of $68,460 in interest, or you can pay for 30 years and pay back $231,677 in interest. With our program, it's a total interest savings of $163,217. Now, I know it's not a fair question, but which side of the equation do you like better? Let's look at the cash flow for a moment just so you get your mind wrapped around that. If we're using the offset account, a paycheck comes in, goes into checking. The program recognizes that and determines how much money is needed to pay bills, how much money is not needed during that pay period. It says to make a payment to the offset account to pay that balance down. We get another paycheck, recognizes how much money we need for that pay period, what we don't need to pay bills. It tells us to move it to the offset account. We have now paid the balance down low enough on the offset account that the program says, let's generate a funds transfer. Let's look at all the debts individually and simultaneously. And if you want to get out of debt the quickest way possible, we want you to pay the money here. Okay? Now, what if I told you you could do the same thing with just a checking and savings account? Because I know a lot of people right now can't get lines of credit, can't get home equity lines. Maybe you've been trying to get out of debt for a long time. Maybe you've had some credit damage. Maybe that's your situation. Well, With the checking and savings, it's just the opposite thing. First thing is the income comes in, it goes into checking. It looks at what we need to pay bills for that pay period, what we don't need, directs you to put it into savings to start building up an asset. We bring another paycheck in. It looks at what we need for that pay period, what we don't need. It tells us to move it over to savings. We now have enough money in savings that we can start paying down debt. The program generates a funds transfer, looks at all of our debts individually and simultaneously, and says if you want to get out of debt, pay your money here. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Really, really simple. Remember, technology is what's making this capable. You don't have to do any charts or graphs or calculations. All you have to do is give it the correct and accurate information about your income and your expenses and let it do its job and follow its prompting. With the Worth account, you don't need a home equity line. You don't need a personal line. You don't need a commercial line. You don't need a secured line. You don't need a credit card. You can operate the same principles starting out with a checking and savings account and move yourself into the entire banking strategy system of utilizing offset accounts, utilizing interest float and cancellation and everything. But some people have to start off crawling before they walk, before they run. The science backs you up. It's the first interactive debt elimination program. We connect over 13,000 banks, lenders, and credit unions. We're web-based for connectivity and security, automatic updates at no charge, mathematical engines driven by complex banking algorithms. With the Worth account, there is no magic, there is just math. With the Worth account, we provide live client support, live chat, live training, online video tutorials, online blog, and continuing education, all of that for the life of the program. When you purchase our program, it is a lifestyle change. It is a program you own for life. We will provide the client support and the continuing education at no charge to you for the life of the program. We have a corporate commitment of over $10 million in development costs up to this point, but I am one of these people that I believe that results speak for themselves. We have currently helped our clients pay down over $1 billion, $22 million in principal pay down, and we've helped our clients bank over $88 million in cash savings. Now, to me, those are phenomenal results from one company that is on a mission to buy America back one family at a time. I want to ask you that question. Is that something you can get behind? Is that something you can believe in? Is that something that has ethic and moral and value behind it? When we started our company, we had in mind this mission, and we have never lost sight of this mission. We are on a crusade. We are on a mission. We are determined that we are going to buy America back one family at a time. And we would love to start with you. You know, many times the answer that you're looking for is right in front of you. You see it every day. Well, I know everybody on this call has seen that logo before for FedEx, but I know about half of you do not know that there is an arrow in that logo. The arrow has always been in the logo. It subliminally tells you go FedEx. It was put in there on purpose. So right now I'm going to show you the arrow. There it is. It's been right in front of you the whole time. It's not a trick. It's been there. You've probably seen it every day, but just didn't recognize it. I'm going to promise you two things at the end of the presentation today. The first thing is you're never going to look at that FedEx logo again and not see the arrow. And the second thing is you're never going to look at your mortgage and your other debt again without thinking about Worth Unlimited. Achieving your financial goals begins with debt elimination. Get in touch with the Worth agent who invited you to this presentation and have them run a free savings report for you. Take the time. Don't delay on this. If you've been looking for a solution, if you want to get out of debt, if you know 2016 is your year to make a difference, to instead of having a year of nothing but debt, maybe have a year that you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and you're beginning to build a legacy. If that's you, if I'm speaking to you, get with the agent and let them run your free analysis. Find out today how Worth Unlimited can help you build a brighter tomorrow today. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and bye-bye for now.